Piping can be the most frustrating part of cushion making, but it doesn't have to be. I've pulled this clip from my 80-minute cushion masterclass to show how I attach bias cut piping to the front panel without getting any puckers or twists. Just follow along for a professional finish.
You want to give yourself, from the cut back side of the bias, about that much to work with. So I would start with that in the middle there. Come back a bit to give yourself a seam allowance, and then start about there. And then you're machining this obviously right through. You've got this stitch line already as a guide, and you want to sew either right on top of that or even just inside of it, and then you'll know that that stitch line won't show when you've sewn it like that. I've actually got quite a wide seam allowance here, but I've left it that way. Then I know I can put it through the overlocker and it'll have something to cut when it's going through the overlocker. And then as you go around the corner, you want to snip it. So I tend to put about 5 or 6 snips in, so you're a bit more controlled if you're a bit and then lay your piping round the curve using the edge of the flange of the piping and the edge of the curve you've cut. And once you've got it laid in place, take a bit of time to get it just nice. Hold it really well with your fingers, and then just fold this piping down out the way, just so you can see the stitch line, and it's not your needle's not going to catch the edge of it. And then just, if you can keep it in one swift go, just work your way around like that, and then carrying along this side. Same thing again, starting about there, ending about there. Really, the curved part is really where you want to put the snips. And yeah, 5 tenths seems to be enough for me there, like that. So again, lining this up with the corner, the curved edge. And like I said, you can still do squared edges with bias cut. I do this, but I don't need to snip those off because I'm running it through the overlocker after. Just have it. I see something that it wants snipping off, I'll snip it off. Okay, so now when we get to meeting up with the other end, you've obviously got to make sure that you've got enough to work with to overlap, and you've got to cut it at an angle as well. So what I tend to do is I fold this back just as a guide. I look for this the shortest point, which is here, and then running up there. I know if I come this way by the seam allowance amount, so say about 1/2 inch, and cut that off. You can cut it straight at this point. I know I'm going to have plenty. And then just undo the stitch line back. And then come out from the machine. And then what I want to do is join 2 pieces like that. So the 2 pieces basically form a right angle, but then you're sewing at an angle down there. This one, you've already got this cut end, so you've got that as a guide. Test whether, see, that looks a bit loose. I was a bit generous with what I cut off. More like that. So again, you can change to the full foot again if you need to, but I just do it with a half foot. Right, it saves a job changing it again. Okay, so once you've sewn it, just pull it tight and just make sure that you've got enough tension in it. And lay the piping down into it just to see it. There we go. So I know that that's going to sew in quite nicely and flat. And then trim off the seam allowance first. I'll trim this one back a bit more. It's easier to work with. And then there's also a few methods of how you join the piping, the cord itself. What I tend to do is I lay the two pieces side by side like that. I don't pull them tight, I just let them lie comfortably like that. And then I pick up both pieces together and I snip. I try not to get the join directly on the seam either. I get it just to one side. It's just what, you know, all those things happening at once in one place just tends to show. And then the ends sort of squish together rather than go perfectly together, because if they're perfectly together at the start and then you put a bit of tension on this as it's sewn, it'll come apart. So this just gives it a bit of ease. And then fold over, start back where you finished off, and then just open up again and just check that this piping is pushed into the crease, well into the crease, and the joined edges aren't all sticking out. They're nicely sort of tucked in. And then also and obviously make sure your seam's opened out inside. Make sure you've got a nice straight line coming down here. Sometimes it's easy to forget that bit and you get a bit of a kink in it. And then finish off that sewing. So there we go. So that's the join on the bottom.
For the full 80-minute tutorial, click on the link in the description below, and don't forget to subscribe for lots more curtain making tips, tricks and tutorials.